Good morning everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Today I've got in this vintage, they call it vintage, but it's probably 1980s machine, an Elna Swiss made electronic machine. It's in for customer says service, bobbin tension, tight, top thread looping. So obviously a tension issue. I've checked the fuse, we've got 5 amp fuse in it, so that's all good. This is the attachments. Comes a little tray underneath, which is quite nice. It's all the feet, bobbins, little screwdriver. That's very nice. This is a flip top, this one. You push the button down, this flips round. There is a modification to this machine, which I used to do a lot of, but I haven't done one for a long time. I don't even know if the parts are still available. It was change all these plates underneath. Just take the needle out, just lever this plate up, just gently move it up. Needle plate, it's in good conditions, no nicks on that, that's good. This just pulls up this plate here. Yeah, the modification does away, I'm pretty sure it does away with this now. It's a long time since I've done one, but it changes all of this plate, changes the bobbin case. I'd say I haven't done one for a long time. Even came with this little tool here, which is here somewhere. I can find it. There's one in here somewhere. Shows how long it is since I used one. Yeah. There it is. Yeah, the conversion kit even came with this little screwdriver for taking the plate off. Isn't working anyway. Okay, that's for the new plate. Let's pop that back there. Undo these screws. Quite tight normally. Just loosen those off. I'll turn this so you can see what I'm doing better. Let's release these 2 Phillips screws here, take the plate right off. Before I do that, I'm just going to check the height of the feed dog underneath. Check that it's coming above. Take these screws out. Back on there. Yeah, the teeth are coming up nicely. There's a little adjusting screw underneath, which I don't need to adjust because it's coming up okay. That just lifts off there. Bobbin case comes out like so. No damage to that I can see. A little bit of fluff under here, which will just gently blow away. Take the bottom plate off when we take the bottom of the machine away. That's good. I'm just going to run the machine. Yeah, we have the 2 little fingers on here which engage into this bobbin case. Just keep it in one place. All seems to be working okay. The speed control on here. Put on to zigzag. Zigzag's working. Put it on to stretch stitch. Yeah, the feed dog are operating backwards and forwards, that's all working. What we'll do now, we'll turn it around. I'm going to unplug it now. Just want to take everything off. We don't really want the electronics to get disturbed if they're on. Right, we've got some little plates here. It's covering the screw holes. There's one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. That's quite a few. They're very brittle. That is a fake one. That's not actually a screw hole there. They made it look like a cover, but it's not. So if you're doing your machine, don't try and get that off. Don't need to. Phillips. There's a long Phillips screw there. That goes straight through to the front cover, that one. That's quite long. So it's quite a while since I've done one of these. Certainly the conversion on one. I've had a couple in recently where the electronics have failed, the foot controls. Plenty of screws. And that's another long one, I think, that one, from memory. Doesn't want to come out. Another long one there. So that one and that one are long ones. That's another long one. When they're long, it means it's going straight through to the casing at the front. That's a short one. So I just need to remember those three there are the long ones. I think that just pops away now. Have to lift the casing over the switch on the side. That all comes off. Pop that out of the way. Don't really need the back off to get to anything here because as I say it's all covered. But you do need to take the back off to get to the screws to take the front off. Just trying to think where the screws are for the front now. There's one right in the corner down here. Two here. That one there. Another one there. Those two. I think where another one is. If that's one in there. And that's where the screw went through from before. That's there. That's all there. It's got this feeling there's another one, but I can't remember where it is. It might not be, might just be a little bit tight. Let's turn it around again. Front's loose. Looks like another one around about here. Just check it again. Can't see one there. Done the bottom one. That's where I can't see it for looking, I think. Just leave this out a little bit. I will find it. It'll come back to me. I haven't stripped one down for quite a few years. Definitely feels like it's in this area here somewhere. Unless it's being stopped by something in the bottom. I can't remember. Let me just take the bottom off. That might help me. There's 2 or 3 big screws here holding the bottom on. Okay, this should enable me to take the bottom off. Means I can then take this little casing off here. Just 2 screws. Hopefully you're seeing this. Yeah, 2 screws at the bottom here. And drop the screws. Put them safely over there. Fluff in there. Yeah, as I thought, it was just that plate at the bottom was holding the casing on. So this now releases and exposes all this lovely electronics. That's a broken screw there. Actual casing's broken onto there. It's not the end of the world. It's not really going to affect anything. I might try and glue it. You won't get a new case for that. Right, let me give it a little blow. The compressor might kick in. Okay, what we're going to do now, I'm just going to plug the machine in again. So I can run it while I oil it. Just got to be careful not to touch any electrics. Right, that should run now. Okay, I'll put it on to that's wide zigzag. remember what button does what. Actually, I want to put it onto, let's see, if I put it onto a fourth one, that will do a wide stretch stitch. That will operate. Yeah, so I'll operate the stitch width and also the feed dog back and forwards. So if I oil it on that, everything's moving. Just got to be really careful on these when you run it, just not to get your fingers in the way and not to touch any electrics. What I like to do, we'll start at the top, get some oil into where the bearings are, the main shaft, just run it gently. You can actually slow it down here, there's speed control. Don't go too fast. Make sure we get all the oil in, everything is moving. That's good. Just being very careful not to touch any electrics here, so if it keeps swiveling around it's because I don't want to grab it. Press a foot. It's probably easier just to lay it down like this. Step motors do all the work on this machine, which is moving all of this mechanism. There's no gears to have to lubricate, cam gears, no cams. All you've got on this machine is two motors. Well, you've got more than two motors, you've got two step motors. One sends the needle sideways, which is here. This is what the zigzag step motor. And you've got another one behind this which moves your feed dog forwards and backwards, and that's the clunking you can hear. One clunk is this one going left and right, and then the other clunk, not really a clunk, it's a tapping noise, is your step motor stepping through the forwards and backwards modes to create the stretch stitch. There's not a great deal of moving parts on this. Obviously, we'll get it into all of them. A drop of oil, all the shafts. This mechanism here drops the feed dog down for doing embroidery. At the moment I've dropped the feed dog down. Just release the mechanism. Only done on the casing. Funny old mechanism this. It was actually stuck, so I'm glad I pushed that, because the whole thing should move across and it will stay there. If the casing was on, I'll show you. So this bit here, you do that to drop the feed dog down, and then this, as it runs, it lifts it back up again. But when you're on this casing here, is this one here, it fits into that slot and stops it moving back, so you actually manually push it up and across. I'm not sure you explain that very well, but it will just stay in that position, which brings the feed dog down, so down at the moment, and then they lift back up afterwards. So made a bit of a fist of explaining that to everyone, but I know what I'm talking about. Once the casing's on, the plastic casing, that will hold it into place. The other motors we have on this machine, apart from step motors, are the motor to run the machine, which is at the back. Show you. Which is here, which is the main motor. It looks like a DC motor, nice and powerful. Just trying to keep the fingers out the way at the front. This is the control power unit, so you've got the transformers and everything in there. Don't need to go into there for a service. Only need to go in there if anything goes wrong. And then you've got another motor, which is just a small motor, which is this one here, which runs the bobbin winder. That's it running now, so as long as this switches on bobbins, it will run this motor, take it off, and it will run the big motor. It all plugs in here, there's a little micro switch which knows that that's want to wind the bobbin. So yeah, quite a complicated machine really. It doesn't need to be that. Most machines don't have this motor, they just run off the wheel. The bobbin winder attaches to the wheel, so you just run the one motor, but Elna, in their wisdom, I've turned off the stretch stitch now, which is why it isn't making that double tapping noise. Running it all up, make sure it's free. It's working oil into it. Okay, these are more modern. Well, it's not really a modern machine, this one, but it's quite advanced for its age. Unlike the old machines, there's no oiling holes. You can't oil it yourself without doing what I've done, stripping it down, and not everyone wants to do that. These tension discs here feel a little bit sticky. Just going to check there's nothing in the tension plates, because that's the issue it's coming for, is tension. So I've lifted up the presser foot, which opens the discs. I've also put it on 0, which opens them wider. So if there's anything stuck in there, I can get to it. But there isn't, not now anyway. Only a simple thing, 3 plates of metal which grip the thread. If there's anything in the middle of them, it's going to affect the stitch. Now it's tight. You can adjust the tension on the bobbin case like all machines to compensate for any issues. I will check the tension's working on the bobbin case. Plenty of oil in it. Placed oil here. And that is it lubricated. That's all the parts there are to lubricate. So I'll just run through the parts again. We've got the motor at the back for the running motor. We've got the bobbin case, the bobbin winder motor, bobbin switch to tell the machine to do the bobbin. We've got the timing belt here which joins the top and the bottom to do the timing. This small belt here is your motor belt that runs that shaft. We've got all the electronics here. The buttons on the front touch these buttons here. That's your speed control. When I put the front back on, I have to make sure that the sliding speed controller lines up with that so it works, otherwise you've got to take it all off again. Learnt that from experience. This one here, I put that in the middle. This does the buttonhole balancing, so it balances the left and right parts of a buttonhole to make sure it looks even. It basically just adjusts the step motor to suit the fabric. Don't often have to adjust those. So you've got your tension unit there, your light unit there, needle bar mechanism we know about, bobbin case hook down there. Let's give it another blow. And that is it. I'm going to turn it off now, take the power out, because we're going to start putting it all back together again. I'm just going to pop this front cover on and see how this broken part here is going to affect anything. I don't think it will, and if it doesn't, I'm not going to muck around with it. So I'm going to put the slider right at the top for the speed control, and then when I put it back, make sure that slider's at the top so it will engage on that. Slide it on. It's a bit fiddly because I've just got to get it right. It's got to be flat. Everything's got to move without getting caught. Actually getting caught, so it's not right. Always a little bit fiddly, especially when I'm trying to film and show everyone what I'm doing. I normally just move it around to where I need it. I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. Just making sure that the tension is all in the right place. Make sure it's flat. Make sure nothing's hitting anything. Right. I've got to make sure that this speed control is working. So to do that, you've got to plug it in, turn it on. Doesn't matter what stitch you select, but if you run it, running fast, that's slowing down, that's getting faster. And then you've got to make sure this is engaged, which it is, which is moving this here, I don't know if you can see it, left and right. These buttons make the lights do what they're supposed to do, which it is. All these buttons are doing everything right, so it's all in the right place. Unplug it. We know that's there, so we can leave that now. Now this broken component, I'm going to pull that away a fraction just to get it into position. Don't think it's going to affect anything, so I'm not going to get too involved because the base is going to hold that all secure. And so I think if I try and glue it, it will just come out as soon as you tighten the screw up, so we won't do that. Next thing to do Let's put everything back in the reverse order we took it off. So we're going to get that. Got to make sure this all lines up. A bit close for you, just do it like that. Just going to put these two screws in. The only fiddly bit really is this bit. So what I've got to do is get it in position so that the feed drop mechanism at the back all works. It's quite fiddly to do. All in the right place. Oh, excuse me, I just knocked the camera. What you got to make sure is on these machines is when they're easy to strip down, because you just pull them apart, take everything off, and it all falls off, which is great. But then you have to make sure that when you put it all back, everything's in place, because there's nothing worse, and I've done it loads of times on other machines. You put it all together, start to sew with it, and you press a button, move a lever, and it doesn't do anything. And then you've got to take it all off again. So it's always to be methodical. Check that this. I'm just checking this is working. So that stays down. You pop this up. And that goes back. So that drops it. Pull that down, and it lifts it back up again. So that must, if you don't put that on right, you're going to have all sorts of problems. If you drop the feet down, you can't get it back without pushing that. It's not a major issue if people don't do embroidery, which I don't tend to that much these days. So that's everything there. So what I'm going to do next is put a few screws to hold the casing still before I put the bottom back on. So we'll use that one there. Don't over tighten them. This one here. That's nicely holding that together. And then all the other screws to hold this casing on goes through the back. And that will do it. I'm just going to finally plug it in once more. Just keep on checking. Just want to double check that speed controller's doing its thing, which it is. Yeah, so nothing's come out of place. All the buttons are working. So we know that's all good. Next thing to do, I'm going to put the base back on. Just the 3 big screws again. Probably can't see what I'm doing here because I've moved it back a bit too much, but I'm just screwing the bottom on. There's nothing really to be clever about with that. It's just 3 screws. Don't tighten them all up until you've got them all started. If you just want to take the bottom off around the bobbin case to clean, you don't need to take this bottom off. There are screw access here and here for those 2 screws. You can just pop that off if you want to clean it out. But I like to take the bottom off just to get at everything. That's tight. Next thing to put on is the rear cover. Make sure it's clean. Check it is. There's no method to this, I think it just pops on. Just got to get it over the switches at the side. Just ease it out a fraction. Gently push it on. Make sure everything's going on. Pull that little casing out of the way just a little bit. Probably should have put this, taken that off first maybe. Okay, I'm just gonna, yeah, see what I mean, lesson learned. I'm just gonna loosen this off a fraction. Give it a little bit of movement, just to slide that in like that. If I do another one soon, I'll remember that, and I'll put this cover on last. Okay, next thing to do is to pop this light back in before we get it all in. Which is there. And then we have to remember where the three big screws went through. So I think it was, from memory, one there. One there, one there, the other one was there. So that's the three long screws, and they're going to pull in the front cover. Do not do them too tight, because if you do, you'll break the lug that they screw into, like that other one was broken down here. Just finger tight. Just need to pull the two cases together, just gently. Well, I don't do those with an electric screwdriver because you can't feel what you're doing. You need to feel it get tight. That's good. And then these to put on. Well, I can use the electric screwdriver for this because it's going into steel. Just machine screws. I won't tighten them all up until I've got them all in. One down here. Tighten them all up. I like to do the final bit by hand. That's all good. That's good. That front one is a little bit loose. There's not a lot I can do about that, to be honest. See if I can just tuck that in a bit better. See if I can just tuck it in a little bit better. That's all around the switch okay. Yeah, it's actually slightly out because of that screw that's broken underneath. I can't do a lot about that. You can't get the casings for these anymore. It's not going to affect the function of the machine. Nice and tight. All that's left is a small gap here, which won't affect the machine. If I fiddle around trying to glue it, I could make it worse and just push it out. It's It's not worth the risk. Okay, it's all good. Finally plug it back in again. That one and that one. Give it a run. That's all working still. It's working. The buttons are good. Everything's good. Brilliant. Sounds nice. Runs nice. Elnas normally run nice. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to grab a bobbin. Normal sewing foot. I've got a walking foot on there at the moment, but I'm going to put the standard satin stitch foot on there. There's a shank there. Let's find all the screws. That's it. Put the shank on, take that one off. This one here is a satin, it's got a bit of a groove there to let the fabric go under, so I'll do some fancy stitches with it, get it working. The next thing to do is to wind a bobbin. A bit of a moment now, I forgot where the bobbin, where the thread sits on that. One last thing at the back, what I'll do is put all these little plates back on. Be quite careful with these not to break them. They just slide in and they're quite fiddly but very fragile. Again, you probably can't get these parts anymore. That one there. I'll push these little tags in. One there. Fiddly with my big fingers. Gently push them in. Just one more down here. One. Well, that's all the screws are covered now. All the covers back on. Let's wind a bobbin. That way round. That's a bobbin winding. Don't think that speed control actually does it for that motor. It's winding nice and evenly. What I'm going to do now is just try it in the bobbin case and feel what tension I've got. It's a bit too tight. Okay, there's something there. There's quite a tight tension on this one. Don't like it too tight. Okay, we'll try that and see how that goes. Put a bit of oil on the hook where the bobbin case sits. Just a quick run. Yeah, a bit clunky on there. There's not a lot I can do about it, that's the way they work. Horrible noise. Right, put the plate back on. These two Phillips screws hold it in place. Snip them down. Nicely down there. Pop the plate back on. That's good. Put the bobbin in. Next thing to do is put a new needle in. Nice satin stitch foot, so perfect. Right, now we thread the machine up. Thread a little bit different. These machines, they thread over to the left of this take up lever. Most machines come down this side and then up. This one goes down on the left, back up, and then back up that way. So that's pretty much the opposite to most machines, but achieves the same success. It's just a different way Elna chose to thread it up. The theory is the same, but the practice is just it goes down the left hand side and then back up the right. They normally sew really nice these, so there's nothing wrong with that method. Might be a bit of a challenge to adjust the tension on this. I'm getting the feeling. But actually ready to sew. Just close this up. Fabric. I'm just going to use this little bit for now, just to test it first time. That's down. That's good. Tension set about 5. Select a straight stitch, which it is. This one here, stitch the length of stitch. Make it a little bit longer. Actually not a bad stitch. Did feel a little bit clunky, the tension, when I first tried it. Just give it a bit of a zigzag. Reverse. This is working. Press press that button there, it makes the needle stop in the down position rather than the up. It's useful for me because I can just swivel the fabric round. That'd be a very nice stitch. Be nice if it was a bit quieter, that's my only comment. Probably need to loosen off the bottom tension a little bit if I can, just to balance it out a fraction. The only problem with this machine is to change the bottom tension, you've got to take the whole plate off. It's a bit of a pain, but there's no other way around it. I'm adjusting it, I'll show you why I'm adjusting it. That's your top stitch, pretty good, nice V's. The bottom stitch, you can probably see here, it's not quite a perfect V, it's a little bit loose on the points of the zigzag. And that is the bottom stitch. So you can normally tighten up the top tension to change that. I don't want to go too high with the number. So instead of tightening that, I'm going to loosen that and do the opposite. Get it as loose as I can, but it still has some tension, and that should accommodate it. If it doesn't, then it's obviously the way the mechanism works underneath is causing it, and that's why they made the conversion kits for it, because it was hard to get tensions right after years of use, because it used to wear, so they changed the whole way it worked. It's fun this is. I have to take the foot off. It's a bit of a palaver to change the thread tension, so I'm going to loosen this off a fraction. Always the fun part of the setting up machines is the tension. Just got to be very methodical. So you get a loose tension, not too loose that you've got no tension, but just get it right. Get it all fixed down again. Takes a bit of time, but you've got to get it right. It's not something I would expect the customers have to keep doing, is changing the bottom tension on the machine. There's the plate. See it for looking, there it is. Okay, that plate's back on, the foot's back on. You like the machines where you can just change the tension just through a hole here, you can just change it without having to do all this taking it apart, but it is what it is. Hope that's not too loose now. Feels a bit too loose, but I might be able to adjust it from the top, so that'll be good. So again, what we're looking for again is a nice nice perfect V. That's better. So I've loosened the underneath thread. It's now going from an unperfect V to a perfect V top and bottom. So if we put it onto a straight stitch, cut that off. I'll show you on the camera. Yeah, a straight stitch is lovely. It's an individual stitch both sides. so is the zigzag. You've got a nice point there and there. That's it before I adjusted it last time. That's it now. So you can see the difference. It wasn't every stitch, it was occasional. Wasn't quite making it, but now that is lovely. So what I'll do now, get another bit and we'll do some more elaborate stitching and try all the other stitches. First of all, straight stitch. Press this down button, the needle ends down, it just lets me swivel it quicker. And then we'll give it a zigzag. Speed control's working nicely. Yep, happy with that. We'll give it something a bit more elaborate to do. Fancy stitch. And this is the stretch stitches it's doing, so it's going back and forwards. That's not actually doing that stitch properly. Let's just move that across a fraction. Looks like it's getting caught on the foot itself, that one, which isn't brilliant. Let's just try that one. Going through all the stitches, just checking that everything's doing what it should be doing. These really tight stitches, it's playing up a little bit because of the foot that I've got on there. So nicely though. The reverse there. Okay, so let's just bring this out and show you what I'm doing. To treat myself to some better scissors, these are blunt. Okay. There we go. That's doing all the stitches, front and back. A little bit too tight probably. I've probably done with having not such a wide stitch on this fabric. It's not too thick, but that's all good. So we pop that back on. And my stickers on here. I'll give it a clean up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. It wasn't the best video in the world because of having to faff around trying to work out how it all came apart, but it came in with a horrible stitch. It's going out with a lovely stitch, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Get the customers' machines doing what they expect from it. Yeah, so it's an old, probably an 80s machine, quite technological for its time, still running strong. Hasn't had the conversion on it, which I'm surprised about, because I used to do a lot of the conversions. It makes it run a bit quieter and smoother, but this one seems to be running okay. That's it. So that's an Elna Club computer, fully serviced. Give it a clean, give the customer a ring until it's ready, and then move on to the next one. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.